The late afternoon sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Emma Carter's office, casting long shadows across her desk. She was wrapping up a high-stakes meeting with a client at Rothman & Lindley, one of Chicago's most prestigious law firms. As the client left, nodding in gratitude for her guidance, Emma exhaled deeply, leaning back in her chair. The day had been grueling, but she felt a flicker of satisfaction knowing she'd helped resolve yet another complex case. Just as she reached for her coffee mug, her phone buzzed on the desk. The screen displayed an unfamiliar number, but the caller ID indicated it was from a bank. Frowning, she hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello, this is Brad Coleman from Horizon First Bank. I need to verify some information related to a mortgage loan for a property at 720 Glenwood Drive." The voice on the other end said, calm but professional. Emma froze, her hand tightening around the phone. "I'm sorry, you must have the wrong person. I don't own any property at that address." There was a pause, then Brad's tone softened slightly. "Your name, Emma Carter, is listed as a co-signer on a mortgage application under the primary applicant, Madison Carter. Your sister?" A wave of nausea hit Emma like a freight train. Her mind raced, fragments of memories colliding in chaos. Madison? Co-signer? None of it made sense. She hadn't signed anything for Madison, or anyone else, in years. "That's impossible," she said firmly, though her voice betrayed her unease. "I've never signed anything related to my sister's loan." Brad sighed audibly. "I understand your surprise, but the loan was approved 7 months ago. All documents carry your signature. Your parents brought the paperwork to the branch themselves." Emma's breath hitched. Her parents? A cold dread crept up her spine as flashes of recent events flooded her mind. Her mother's evasive gaze during Christmas dinner, the awkward silence every time she mentioned Madison's new house, and especially when they handed her a stack of papers at her father's birthday party, insisting she sign them because it was just routine health insurance renewal. "I need a copy of all the documents immediately," Emma demanded, her voice trembling despite her attempt to stay composed. "They'll be in your inbox within minutes," Brad replied. But his next words sent a chill down her spine. "There's another issue. The payments are more than 2 months overdue. The current balance is around $18,000. Emma couldn't process the rest of what he said. Her chest tightened as if an invisible hand were squeezing the air out of her lungs. Once the call ended, she dialed Alex, the one person she knew wouldn't judge her for saying something this insane. "They forged my signature," she blurted as soon as he picked up. "Madison, my parents, all of them." Alex didn't ask questions. He simply said, "I'll be there in 15 minutes." By the time Alex arrived, Emma had already received Brad's email. Together they opened the PDF file, and in an instant, suspicion turned into pure outrage. The signature line on the mortgage declaration wasn't just similar to hers, it was identical, right down to the little loop at the end of the in Emma. It was unmistakably her mother's handwriting. Alex tapped the screen. "They didn't even bother to make it a perfect match. This is a serious offense." Emma nodded, her hands shaking. Her phone lit up again, her mom was calling. Handing the phone to Alex, who gestured for her to answer, Emma took a deep breath and accepted the call. "Hi, Mom," she began cautiously. "Sweetheart, are you free tonight? Your dad's making your favorite spaghetti and meatballs," her mother chirped as if nothing was wrong. Emma almost laughed at the irony. "Perfect timing, actually. I wanted to talk to you about a very interesting call I got from Horizon Bank." Silence stretched across the line. Then her mother's voice came through, stammering. I was going to tell you soon. Really. Just. Madison needed help. And so your solution was to forge my signature?" Emma snapped, her voice rising. "You're overreacting, Emma. We're family. Families help each other." Emma clenched her jaw, fighting to stay composed. "Help each other? Or just help Madison? You put me in nearly $18,000 of debt and didn't say a word. Madison will pay it back. She just needs time," her mother pleaded. Emma cut her off, her voice icy. "I'm coming over tonight. Madison better be there too. We need to talk clearly." She ended the call, still shaking. Alex closed the laptop and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do you want to press charges?" Emma sank into her chair, feeling as if the air had been sucked out of the room. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I need the truth, all of it." Alex nodded. "Then we start tonight." Emma straightened, something shifting inside her. Not pain but resolve. Her family had used her success as a shield for their bad decisions. Fine. Now they'd learn what it was like to face a lawyer. The next morning, Emma woke up with a weight pressing on her chest. Sleep had been elusive, her mind racing through every possible scenario, each one more devastating than the last. When Alex arrived at her office later that day, his usual calm demeanor was replaced by something sharper: urgency. He carried 2 coffees and a stack of documents thicker than the one they'd reviewed the night before. "We've got a problem," Alex said without preamble, setting the papers down. "This isn't just about the mortgage anymore." Emma's stomach dropped as he opened his laptop. On the screen were rows of transactions, account names and balances, all tied to her identity. There were 3 credit cards in her name, opened within 6 months, maxed out to their combined limit of nearly $70,000. A personal loan for $50,000 from a finance company in Iowa stood out like a scarlet letter. And then there was the investment account, a phantom account used as collateral for yet another loan. "No," Emma whispered, sinking into her chair. "I've only ever applied for one card, my MX from 2019. How is this even possible?" "That's what we're going to find out," Alex replied grimly. "But it gets worse. Your credit score has tanked. It's now 613, down from 812 6 months ago. If the firm finds out, they'll start asking questions. You could be implicated just for being the account holder." Emma felt the walls closing in. She stared at the numbers on the screen, her mind struggling to comprehend how her life had unraveled so completely without her knowledge. Nearly $300,000 in fraudulent accounts, and not because she'd made reckless choices or overspent. No, this was her own family exploiting her success, her reputation, everything she had worked for. Her thoughts raced back to Madison's visit on her birthday. Madison had stayed late, claiming she needed help editing her resume. But now Emma remembered something else. Madison sitting at her desk, typing furiously on her laptop while Emma took a phone call outside. "Alex," she said suddenly, her voice trembling. "Madison borrowed my laptop twice last month. She said she needed to check her email." "What if—" Alex didn't wait for her to finish. He pulled up her remote login history and began tracing IP addresses. Within minutes, his expression darkened. "There's an unauthorized login from your parents' home IP address right after Madison's visit," he said, turning the screen toward her. Emma's breath hitched. It wasn't just negligence, it was calculated. They hadn't merely taken advantage of her, they had planned it. "I need to confront them," Emma said, her voice cold and steady despite the storm inside her. "You can't do this alone," Alex warned. "I know," she replied. "But I'm not backing down. Not this time." That evening, Emma sent a single text to Alex: "Don't leave me alone this time." When she stepped into her parents' suburban house the following night, everything looked eerily familiar: the worn carpet, the faint smell of roast chicken lingering in the air, the framed family portrait hanging crookedly on the wall. Yet none of it felt like home anymore. Her mother greeted her with a forced smile, trying to mask the tension crackling beneath the surface. "Emma, you're here," her mother said, her voice too cheerful. "Dinner's almost ready. Let's eat first." Emma ignored her, placing the thick stack of documents on the dining table. The sound of the folder hitting the wood echoed through the silent room. "Let's not pretend," she said, her voice cutting through the air like glass. "These are copies of every credit account, loan and investment fraudulently opened in my name." Her mother glanced quickly at the file, then looked away. Madison sat at the table, eyes puffy from crying. Her father stood near the stove, arms crossed, avoiding eye contact. "You don't understand," Madison stammered, breaking the silence. "I didn't mean to, I just needed a little help with the down payment for the house, and then things got out of control." "Didn't mean to?" Emma repeated, her voice icy. She pulled out her phone and opened a photo of Madison's recent credit card statement. "Last month, you spent nearly $9,000 at a spa and $3,500 on designer handbags. How exactly do you plan to pay that back? How much do you earn per month?" Madison froze, her face pale. I don't have a steady job," she admitted, her voice barely audible. Emma nodded, her jaw tight. "Then I'm sorry, but you can't pay it back. And if you both truly believe that love is enough reason to destroy my credit, career and reputation, then maybe we're not even speaking the same language anymore." Her mother burst into tears. "Emma, please don't do this. Your sister will lose her house." Emma turned to look at Madison, who now trembled like a child caught red-handed. Then she looked back at her parents, the same people who once taught her that honesty was a core value. Now they stood there, hoping she'd simply look the other way. "I've contacted a lawyer," Emma said slowly. "Tomorrow morning, I'm filing an identity fraud complaint with the State Financial Crimes Unit." Her father scowled. "You're really going to take your own family to court?" I'm not taking anyone anywhere, Emma replied. You brought this on yourselves when you chose to exploit me without asking. Madison grabbed her arm, tears streaming down her face. You can't do this. I'm your sister. Emma took a deep breath, forcing her voice to remain steady. You are my sister. But you're also the person who wrecked the career I spent a decade building. You don't get to steal everything from someone and then ask them to smile and forgive you. Her mother collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Her father remained silent, his expression unreadable. Madison stared at her, panic in her eyes. Emma walked toward the door, pausing for a moment to glance back. I'm not doing this out of anger. I'm doing it for justice. Because if I stay quiet now, there will be a next time. And another after that. Until there's nothing left for me to protect. She closed the door behind her, leaving behind the tears, the betrayal, and the endlessly repeated excuse. We're family. For the first time in her life, Emma realized that family wasn't a license to hurt someone and call it love. The weight of the thick stack of documents Emma placed on the dining table reverberated through the room like a thunderclap. Her hands trembled, but her voice was cold and steady. We need to talk clearly. This is every single account you opened using my identity. Her mother's face paled as she glanced at the pile. Madison buried her head in her arms, sobbing uncontrollably. For a moment no one spoke. The silence stretched taut, broken only by the sound of Madison's muffled cries. Then, finally, Madison lifted her tear-streaked face. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. I just wanted a fresh start. Emma's jaw clenched. She turned to her father, who stood rigidly near the stove, his arms crossed. His expression hardened into something defensive. She needed a chance, Emma, he said gruffly, his tone accusatory. You've got everything, your career, your money, your reputation. What about her? Emma froze, her eyes narrowing. What about me? Where's my chance? You used my identity to destroy my life. Madison started to protest, but Emma cut her off sharply. Do you even realize what you've done? My credit score is ruined. My law license could be at risk. And now I'm being dragged into investigations because of your greed. She reached for her phone and pulled up Madison's credit card statement. Turning the screen toward her sister, she pointed at the transactions. Spa treatments costing nearly $9,000 last month. Designer handbags worth over $3,500. How much do you earn per month, Madison? Tell me how you plan to pay any of this back. Madison stared at the floor, her lips trembling. Silence fell again, heavier this time. Emma felt a surge of anger mixed with despair. These were supposed to be the people she trusted most, the ones who raised her, but they had betrayed her in ways she couldn't have imagined. And that's not all, Emma continued, her voice rising. You didn't stop at loans or credit cards. You created an entire fake investment fund using my name. Her parents exchanged a glance, their faces stricken. Madison looked up, confused. What are you talking about? Emma exhaled sharply, pulling out another document. Riverpine Growth Fund. Does that ring a bell? A so-called private investment scheme where dozens of people, including some of Mom's closest friends, invested their savings because they believed I was managing the fund. Her mother gasped audibly. Emma, we never meant to hurt anyone else. Didn't mean to? Emma snapped, her voice cutting like ice. You used my financial records, my reputation, my goddamn face to convince others to invest in a scam. Dozens of people trusted you because they thought I was involved. What happens when they find out the truth? Her father stepped forward, his face red with frustration. It wasn't supposed to turn into this mess. We were trying to help Madison get ahead. Help her get ahead? Emma repeated incredulously. At what cost? At the expense of everyone else's future? She stood abruptly, pushing her chair back. Pacing across the room, she tried to steady her breathing. There was still one more piece of evidence she hadn't shown them yet, the emails. She pulled out her laptop and opened the folder containing the forged correspondence. They even replicated my email signature, she said quietly, her voice laced with disgust. e.carter.consult@gmail.com. They sent messages pretending to be me, assuring victims that their investments were safe. Her mother covered her mouth with her hand, shaking her head. No, we didn't know about those emails. Then explain this, Emma interrupted, showing them screenshots of IP logs traced back to their home address. Every single transaction originated from your IP. Every email was sent from devices connected to your network. Madison let out a choked sob. Mom, Dad, I swear I didn't know about offshore accounts or anything like that. I just helped bring people in. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She looked at each of them in turn, her mother wringing her hands, her father glaring at her defiantly, and Madison crumbling under the weight of guilt. None of them understood the gravity of what they'd done. "I'm done listening to excuses," she said firmly, standing tall. "Tomorrow, I'm filing a complaint with the Federal Financial Crimes Unit. If you truly believe love can justify stealing someone's identity and ruining their life, then we don't speak the same language anymore." Before anyone could respond, Emma grabbed her coat and headed for the door. Behind her, Madison broke down completely, shouting after her, "You can't do this, Emma. We're family." Emma paused at the threshold, turning back briefly. Her voice was low but resolute. "Family doesn't exploit each other. Family protects each other." As she walked away, the night air hit her like a slap. Pulling out her phone, she texted Alex, "We start now." The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Solstice James's office, casting sharp lines across the desk. Emma sat beside her, cold sweat trickling down her spine as Solstice typed furiously on her laptop. Alex leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his expression unreadable but tense. The room was silent except for the rhythmic clicking of keys and the occasional hum of the printer. "Emma," Solstice finally said, her voice low but firm, "this isn't just about identity theft anymore." She turned the screen toward Emma. On it was a complex web of transactions leading to an offshore account in Luxembourg. "What am I looking at?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is Riverpine Growth Fund, a so-called private investment scheme that doesn't exist. Your parents used your financial records, reputation, and even your photo to convince people to invest. They told victims you were managing the fund personally." Emma felt the floor drop beneath her. "How many people are involved?" Solstice hesitated before replying. "So far we've identified at least 14 victims. Most are older individuals, some from your parents' social circle, others connected through your mother's college alumni network." Emma's stomach churned. "People who trusted my family." Just then Alex stepped forward holding a fresh cup of coffee. "We got a message from a bank employee. Your father and a friend tried to withdraw $200,000 from a joint account earlier today. The system flagged it, and the transaction was frozen." "Good," Solstice nodded. "We need to act fast before they move the money out of reach." Emma clenched her fists, her mind racing. "What about the victims? Has anyone come forward yet?" "Not yet," Solstice admitted. "Many are reluctant to admit they were fooled. Some are old friends of your parents. Others were your mom's closest companions." Emma swallowed hard. "The people who trusted my family most were the ones being hurt the worst." "There's someone you need to meet," Solstice said, stepping out briefly. Moments later, she returned with a woman whose neatly styled gray hair and beige coat struck a familiar chord. "Mrs. Helen Ward," Emma whispered, recognizing her former high school teacher and her mother's longtime friend. "Hello, Emma," Mrs. Ward said softly. "Solstice said I could trust you." Emma stood and shook her hand, her throat tightening. "I'm so sorry." "If I had known sooner," Mrs. Ward shook her head, her eyes misty. "I believed in your mother. In your image, young, successful, financially savvy. They said you ran the fund. I withdrew my entire retirement savings." Emma's heart sank. "I'll do everything I can to recover that money. I swear." Alex interjected, "We've prepared a full case file. We'll submit it to the Federal Investigation Office in the morning." Solstice added, "We're also compiling a complete list of victims. Once the case is launched, they'll receive protection and legal support." Emma glanced at the whiteboard on the wall, now covered in sticky notes bearing victim names, dollar amounts, and transaction dates. It looked like the blueprint of a massive fraud scheme, with her name right in the center. "How much time do we have?" Emma asked. "Not much," Alex replied. "They're panicking. Wait too long, and the money could vanish into other banking systems beyond our reach." Emma clenched her fists. "Then we start now." That morning, Emma walked into Hallage Bank headquarters with Alex and Solstice, carrying a thick file filled with forged emails, financial statements, IP access logs, and a verified list of fraudulent investments. Frank Delaney, the branch manager, stood up when he saw them, a flicker of surprise and tension crossing his face. "Emma, I just met with your parents earlier today," he began, attempting to maintain a neutral tone. "They claim you're trying to tarnish the family's reputation and even threaten to sue you for defamation." Emma placed the file on his desk and locked eyes with him. "Then I suggest you take a look at what I brought with me today." Frank sat down, opening the documents and reading each page slowly. The calm in his eyes gradually gave way to concern, especially as he reviewed Solstice's analysis of suspicious transactions, specifically the money trail from Riverpine Growth Fund to anonymous offshore accounts. "Oh my God," he exhaled as he reached the IP address report. "All mortgage applications, investment activity, and credit card openings were executed from the same location, your parents' home." Solstice nodded. "We also extracted device identification logs. All actions originated from a personal laptop that matches the one Madison brought with her to Emma's office." Frank closed the folder, his face stiff as stone. "I'll have to escalate this to our internal legal team immediately. The bank will need to freeze all related accounts pending investigation. We've already sent the same report to the Northridge County Police Department and the Federal Financial Crimes Office," Alex added. Less than an hour later, two plainclothes officers entered the bank. Emma recognized them from an earlier meeting, Inspector Hope and Deputy Inspector Morales. "Miss Carter, thank you for cooperating. We've reviewed the evidence. It's time to bring in the parties involved." Emma waited in the back conference room as Frank called her parents and Madison, asking them to return to the bank to clarify some information regarding the mortgage paperwork. All three agreed immediately, probably still thinking they were ahead of the game. When they entered the room, her mother was the first to speak, her voice casual, like walking into a cocktail party. "Frank, I'm so glad you called. We thought it best to clear things up with Emma as soon as possible." Her father gave her a curt nod. Madison wouldn't meet her eyes. "Clear things up," Emma repeated, pushing the file across the table. "Please review this. It contains evidence of identity theft, fraud, financial manipulation, and violations of federal law." A frozen silence fell over the room. Madison trembled, her eyes wide. Her mother snatched the file and flipped through it frantically. Her father's face turned red, his hand tightening into a fist. "Emma," he growled, "what do you think you're doing?" "I'm stopping the three of you from continuing to ruin my life, and the lives of at least 14 other people," Emma replied. "You called it helping family. I call it what it is, organized crime." Her mother slammed her hand on the table. This is a mistake. We're the victims. She made this up." Madison broke down in tears. "I didn't know anything about those offshore accounts. I just helped Mom and Dad convince a few friends to invest." At that moment, the two officers stepped forward, flashing their badges. "Gordon Carter, Helen Carter, Madison Carter, you are being placed under arrest under a summons from the Federal Financial Court for charges of fraud, financial crimes, identity theft, and operating an unlicensed investment scheme." Her mother's jaw dropped. This is insane." As they led her family out of the room, Emma stood by the door watching silently. When Madison turned back, tears streaming down her face, she whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't think it would go this far." Emma didn't respond. She knew Madison had always known. They all had. And they kept going even when the cliff's edge was in sight. The courtroom was silent as Emma stepped onto the witness stand, her hands trembling slightly but her resolve unshaken. She looked at the jury, then at the judge, and finally at her family seated across the room, faces she once trusted without question. Her voice broke the stillness, steady yet filled with emotion. "My name is Emma Carter," she began, clutching the folder of evidence in front of her. "I'm a corporate attorney at Rothman and Lindley. Within less than a year, I discovered that my identity had been used to open 3 credit cards, 2 loans, and a fake investment fund, all under my name." She presented every piece of evidence: forged emails, IP traces originating from her parents' home, bank statements showing fraudulent withdrawals, and even social media photos of her mother posing on yachts and luxury vacations funded by victims' money. Each document felt like a shard of glass piercing through her heart, but she pressed on. "I wasn't just betrayed," she said, locking eyes with Madison. "I was turned into a shield for criminal behavior. My success became their bait to lure innocent people into investing in a non-existent fund." As Madison's lawyer tried to argue that his client acted under parental pressure, Prosecutor Whitaker stood up, holding a single sheet of paper. "Your Honor, we have proof that Madison Carter submitted a job application using Emma's resume, complete with her law degree, e-signature, and bar license number." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Madison slumped in her seat, tears streaming down her face. The defense's narrative crumbled. After hours of deliberation, Judge Roberts delivered the verdict: Gordon Carter, 18 years in federal prison. Helen Carter, 15 years. Madison Carter, 12 years, along with permanent disqualification from any financial representation or practice. All assets linked to the case were seized for victim restitution. As the officers led her family away, Madison turned back, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Emma. I didn't think it would go this far." Emma stood frozen, watching them disappear behind the courtroom doors. She didn't respond, not because she lacked words, but because she knew they all understood what they had done. 1 week after the trial, Emma returned to Rothman and Lindley, not as the daughter trying to uphold her family's honor but as a survivor determined to rebuild her life. A message from the board awaited her, an invitation to lead Reclaim and Rise, a program supporting victims of financial fraud caused by loved ones. "I believe no one is more qualified than you," the CEO wrote. "Not just because of your expertise but because you've lived it. You understand the pain and have turned it into purpose." Emma stared at the email for hours, torn between closing this chapter forever or embracing it as a new beginning. In the end, she chose courage over fear. Her first task as director was organizing the inaugural support group meeting. That evening, she stood before a small crowd gathered in a rented hall. Faces lined with worry, exhaustion, and hope filled the room. Emma folded the prepared speech in her hand and spoke from her heart. "I'm not here to tell anyone how to heal," she said softly. "I'm here because I once sat exactly where you are now. I once believed that family was the safest place, until they crossed every line I thought couldn't be crossed." A young woman named Lindsay stood up, tears falling. "Thank you for saying what I never dared to admit." Afterward, attendees left notes on a table near the exit. One caught Emma's eye. "I used to think I was weak for not being able to forgive. But thanks to you, I see now, sometimes the strongest thing we can do is cut off what's toxic." Holding the note, Emma realized something profound. For years, she had believed love meant enduring pain, preserving the illusion of family at all costs. But now she understood. Real strength lies in speaking up, in protecting yourself and others from cycles of abuse and lies. That night, sitting by the window overlooking Chicago's skyline, Emma reflected on her journey. She no longer chased love from those who hurt her. Instead, she was building a new kind of family, one rooted in respect, honesty, and compassion. Family isn't blood, she thought. It's safety. It's trust. It's love given freely without conditions. And Emma had found hers.